No worries. All right, as promised, I didn't want to waste anybody's time, so we'll get kicked off right at 10:02. It looks like we got a good majority of our participants on. That's growing a little bit, but we'll go ahead and get started. So before I throw it over to Tim to do the welcome, I just want to talk a little bit about what to expect from today, kind of the items on the agenda, and for everybody that's on here, make sure you're in the right place, and this is something that's going to be valuable for you. So we way back when, and CPDC did 101 training where all the different departments would either kind of introduce each of the sections of CPDC, what they did, who they were, and some were very process oriented and some were more kind of high level oriented. So we developed a construction management 101, which we presented a handful of times on various campuses or during trainings, which really went over kind of high level in the construction management department out of the Chancellor's office. Who work there? What are our roles? What are the main programs that we support? What are some of the general legislation that relates to how CSU does business and does construction, as well as what are the resources and training that we have available. So we're not going to go through construction management 101 as if you're a project manager and here's how to go through manage a project. That'll be a future training, but today is high level for anybody that interfaces with construction management. And what we're going to talk about today is we've more recently changed to construction services, which I'll talk about in a little bit of why we made that change from construction management to construction services. And so anybody that interfaces with us, whether it's procurement, finance, campuses, or anybody in the capital planning or facilities food chains, to know that, what are your resources and then who are your contacts. So today is going to be that high level overview of all those items, and hopefully that adds a little more transparency to what we do. Shows everybody some resources that they might not know existed. So if you find at least one new resource for each of you, I think today will definitely be worth it. And then also a majority of our team is new within the past few months and definitely over the past few years. So we wanted to get an opportunity to introduce everybody to the system, and that way when you're reaching out, you can put a face to the name. So that's a little bit about today. A few housekeeping items. We are more than happy to utilize the chat box. So some of us will be monitoring the chat box. If it's something that relates directly to what we're talking about, and it makes sense and one of us stop on it, we'll jump in and answer it right there. If not, we're going to scroll through the chat box at the very end and answer any of the questions. Anything that we can't answer, we will export and definitely get back to that person offline or send it out to everybody. And like I said, we're going to try to get a survey out to all the participants to elicit some feedback on anything that can be, or what everybody liked, and then what can be approved. So kind of a plus delta. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim to do the welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on here. I have the pleasure of running this unit, which I've been doing for all of 2.5 months, and I'm still figuring out all the pieces. We're an unusual group because we have a lot of different hats that we wear on here, and we keep assuming new responsibilities and new hats as we go. So, but the fundamental purpose of this unit is to serve the campus facilities development programs, to actually get things built. We monitor the different procurement systems that are available to you. We're constantly fine-tuning those and making them more friendly to you. We are here to support you when you run into issues on the projects during construction. We monitor the overall construction environment. We have the fire safety division. We're attempting to significantly reduce permit application time and other disruptions in the permitting process, and so on. And it keeps evolving. We keep adding to that list. So welcome. Thank you for coming in here. Kevin, back to you.
As promised, we would start from the top and then kind of build down on, where are the regulations we need to follow? Because that was one of my first questions when I moved from private to public. I knew how to build, but I didn't really have an understanding of all the legislation and laws that surround that, which are very critical to understand when you're in public works construction, because a lot of it's dictated by legislation. So kind of starting from the top up at federal, obviously we have the US Constitution, and then the way the federal and state laws are split up is if there are any regulations or laws that aren't dictated by federal legislation, anything that falls through the cracks kind of falls through to the states. So there's very limited federal legislation for construction projects and construction generally. Obviously federal, they have their own regulations for federal projects, but there's not a lot that trickles through from general federal legislation into the state. So being that there's a gap in federal legislation, then the state gets to make up all their own rules, which makes sense because regionally construction changes, and you want to make sure that the laws reflect the needs of that region. So within the state, we've got the California Constitution, the statutes, and the California Code of Regulations. So you guys will recognize the statutes, which there's 29 of them. The ones that are most relevant to us are Public Contract Code, Government Code, Health and Safety, Education Code, Military Veterans, and Civil Code. And there's a few others that apply to us, but a majority of them are in these first four. And then we have the California Code of Regulations, which is Titles 1 through 28. And the Building Code Standards is Title 24, which everybody should recognize. And that's for building code, or all of the whole group of building codes. So that's what's the overarching legislation and laws that kind of dictate how we do construction. So the legislation is still fairly minimal. Some of the sections might only be a few sentences, so it's not going to fully describe how we do everything. So at CSU, we have to take that a step further and interpret that legislation or create a policy that is applicable to CSU on how we meet that legislation. So we have our SUAM section, which we're going to go into pretty detail on how to navigate that, because that's, if there's any questions that come up where there's inconsistency in some of the documents or forms or policies, it's always good to go to SUAM to see what the intent is. And then in SUAM, it has the legislation references, so you can go up to the legislation and see, what does the legislation actually say we have to do? And is there something in conflict with that? And if you guys provide us feedback that we have procedures that are in direct conflict with either SUAM or SUAM's in conflict with legislation for some reason, we can definitely go through the process and have that changed to either modernize it or correct it or even make it more clear, if that makes sense. So these can always be changed to meet the legislation. And then obviously legislative change is a slower process. But we do have some lobbyists that actually do lobby for legislative change. So that does evolve over time as well to meet modern needs. And then also, so all of these are on policy stat, and we're going to talk about policy stat here in a little bit. There's also the coded memoranda, and then Executive Order 672, which we have a separate slide for that, but that's actually what gives campuses delegation to perform their own projects and CSU. So we'll jump to that when we get to that slide. And then down at for the campuses, we've got the delegation agreements, which we'll talk about here a little bit, and then the management plan. So even within the campus, even though we do have standardized policies and forms and documents, every campus runs their program a little bit differently to meet the needs of that specific campus. So hopefully this is a good overview of all of kind of the references if we're trying to figure out how we do business in construction in the CSU. So here's another a visual chart. Jim always had one that was the policy sandwich, which I was trying to find, or even the policy panini. That's pretty good, which I think came from Aaron Clem. I see him celebrating down there. So maybe I'll have to send that one out too. But this is just a graphic. Basically what I just showed, statute is the overarching, which is kind of the least defined, and then policy defines that a little more. And then within SUAM, section 9000 is CPDC. Within section 9000, section 12 is construction management. And each layer down this pyramid gets more and more defined. and then ultimately the CM procedures and forms, which is the largest amount of documents that has the most step-by-step information. But as you go down, it gets a little bit looser and looser on how they need to be interpreted. So I guess the other layer I don't have below this is guidelines, which are just general recommendations and best practices. So up here is statute policy. This is what we have to do. Kind of in this middle is more or less what we should do. And then once you get towards the bottom, it's recommendations. But this layer right here, the procedures and forms, is our attempt at giving the step-by-step process as detailed as possible to help people do their job while meeting all these upper layers. So it's always a challenge because there's so much information. All right, and with that, I'll hand it over to Sandra Gonzalez. And no fear, after this overhead introduction section, we do have introductions for each of our team members. So if you hold tight, we'll get to introducing our entire team. So with that, take it away, Sandra.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The State University Administrative Manual can be found on our CSYOU site and also on the CPD website on the Resource Library page. What you see here is the table of contents, and that shows all of the areas of SUAM that's relative to CPDC. Section 12, Construction Management, is specific to us here in Construction Services unit. So here you're going to find everything you need regarding public works, contracts, capital projects, bidding, awards, claims, etc. I'm going to go ahead and put into the, unless you already did that, Kevin, I was going to put into the chat box, I will give a link to this page because we've had some calls from campuses who are looking for this page and unable to find it. So that's the overview of the full SUAM 9000. Next slide. Policy stat. Hopefully some of you have already become familiar a little bit with our new policy stat. And this is really the search tool where you can find all of the CSU policies, codes, and executive orders. So to search for our SUAM section 12, you can see the tabs along the top where the top red arrow is. The easiest way to find our section is either under codes where the arrow is pointing. You would just type in SUAM section XII or go to the home tab up there. And also you can type in SUAM 12 in the search line. Policy stat is found at calstate.policystat.com. I would encourage everyone to become familiar with this. So going to the next slide, as you dig into this a little bit, the home tab shown at the top with the arrow is also good for finding random topics you may need during your projects, like prevailing wage, as shown here. You can just type in under this, a pretty good, pretty robust search engine. You can put in contract awards, inspections, bidding, and then it will go to whatever section is specific and has language specific to your search. So the system is a broad search engine and it is very helpful. When you get into section 12 of SUAM, here's what you will find. Our construction management section starts with 9700, which is public works contracts. It ends with 9843, which is latent defects. So the table of contents you see that's sort of expanded on the left side of that slide on that page, it gives a further breakdown. And finally, if you aren't sure where to find a topic, a word, or a phrase you're looking for, remember you can always use your Control F function on your keyboard. It'll pop up a little window and you can do a search of the entire section for a specific word or phrase. And so when you're not sure where to look, you can always go Control F once you're in here, and it'll show you where to go. Next. Okay, California bills and codes. Another important resource that everyone should be looking at is the legislation page where all of the bills and codes are located. You can see right there, the website, leginfo.legislature.ca.gov. I would suggest that you bookmark this page with that address shown there. The bill information tab at the top, right now you're looking at the home tab, right next to it, the bill information tab also has a search engine that you can look up bills by bill number, by code, by text. So again, a very useful tool for everyone to take a look at.
And I usually use this quick code search down here. There's a drop down. You can go to public contract code or government code, type in the section if you know it, or throw some keywords in and launch it straight from there. So use this on at least a weekly basis.
Yes. So one code you should have handy is public contract code 10700. In this Ledge Info site, you see under California Law tab, the code as mentioned by Kevin, code would be PCC, Public Contract Code. Section is 10700. And 10700 to 11005 is specifically Cal State University contract law. And in these sections, you're going to see the code specific to many things we do. Some of which are noted on these bullets, awarding or self-performing projects, service contracts, design build, best value award, which we get a lot of questions about, energy conservation contracts, job order, job contracts. So all of this is in that section of public contract code. So again, I would bookmark this section and at very least this website for more assistance. Everyone should also have a copy or at least access to a copy of the Red Binder, which contains the law of design and construction. This is an essential resource that presents an overview of the law that binds the CSU and all of the details that are part of this. So it includes defining the authority of the trustees, laws that regulate the preparation of design services and professional service agreements, preparing construction contracts and what required provisions must be included in these contracts, reviews, qualifications, bonds, insurance, all of these statutes that regulate and define these. So it also does go into payments, change orders, stop notices, and it's your one-stop shop of all of our laws relative to what we do on a daily basis. So, if you don't have your own, make sure you have access to one or get one and bring it home. And it looks like we've recently gotten approval from council, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, to possibly get this to go in a virtual format. Is that correct? Which is the first time that's happened.
So good news, we do our law, design, and construction training approximately every year to 2 years. So right now we're currently holding the days, the conference that got canceled. So I think we're looking at October 2021. We're waiting for a few of the presenters to confirm. But in preparation for that training, we are kind of digitizing and making a digital friendly version of this binder. We were hesitant to make it digital in the past because it is some information that we want to keep within CSU staff. But now with the different SharePoint access, we do have a little more controls on how we share digital information. So expect a digital version of this to be available either early October before the training or to be distributed immediately after that training. So be on the lookout here shortly on the Institute page, which we're going to talk about training and how to access our training resources towards the end of the presentation. And if you or any of your coworkers are involved in that training, they'll get access to the digital version, which I hope we'll be able to have it all hyperlinked and indexed to make it super friendly to use. And that's a binder that I use at least on a weekly basis, if not multiple times a week. So we will be getting that out. But in the meantime, if you can find a hard copy laying around in your office or from one of your staff members that's been around for a few years, it's a good read to flip through, just to kind of get awareness of all the laws that surround what we do.
Thank you, Kevin. Prior to July of 1997, the Chancellor's Office oversaw all of the projects on the campuses. Executive Order number 672 granted project delegation from the Chancellor to the president of each campus. So specifically, it delegates authority to directly manage the capital outlay process from project design through construction and occupancy for both state and non-state funded capital outlay projects that are approved by the Board of Trustees. So here what you see is some of the language associated with the delegation. And of course, it includes, subject to certification, maintaining internal controls, and accountability, all of which are part of this executive order. And finally, the Certification Review Board, they do meet annually. Often it's in March or April. The board is made up of 4 vice presidents or associate VPs and 3 CPDC staff members. The purpose of the annual meeting is to review the capital outlay management plans that have been submitted by each campus. They review project performance reports. They take a look at any audits and audit results, and also they look at any CPDC visits over the past year to the campus to take a look at projects, and they also look at training that's attended by the campus project reps. So the outcome of each year's meeting are delegation agreements to each and every campus, which may or may not include some special conditions to be applied to the campus projects. So with that, I am going to hand this over to our colleague, Terry Carr, to move to the next subject. Thank you.
This one's Tim, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, sure. I can
Oh,
tell you
sorry,
about this chart.
TB, not TC. I mean Tim, our new boss.
Just to restate it again, and without reading into here, our goal is to make sure that CSU first is a client of choice among the entire industry, and we set a model for performance among all our campuses, even given the broad diversity of programs and project sizes and the different challenges that you're faced in there. We're a 50-year-old system, and that puts some unique pressures on us in an era of tight budget and constraints. And our job is to try and find ways to stretch dollars further and keep you all smarter and sharper in that. And it's a mission that's very interesting and challenging and ever evolving. So we'll continue to keep slipping more new tools and tricks of the trade out to you as fast as we can generate them. Just getting into our org chart on here, the way we're arranged. Far to the left, Sandra Gonzalez, Edward Villanueva, Terry Carr. Those are the people that track all of our various documents related to anything, all the resource documents, all the bulletins, all the procedures, contracts, and so forth. In addition, Terry is our lead administrator for all of the insurances, Osip, BRIP, and the specialty insurances that come in underneath us on here. That unit also handles pre-qualification of contractors for everybody. Moving the next box over on it, we have Kevin. Lout runs the construction management division on there. Jeremy is underneath him, and Carmen, our student assistant. We will be expanding that unit shortly in here. They're the people that have the quick answers for any problems that show up on the field. Pick up the phone, pick up the email, give them a call, and we'll reach out and we'll figure out how to back you up on that. Going to the far right on here, fire safety. This is the fire safety division is new. It's being formed. It's being rapidly organized on that. We're in the process of creating an entirely new department with all of the support systems and everything that it requires on that. In the meantime, we are doing plan permit assistance, trying to expedite that in with the state fire marshal. We're already seeing significant benefits from that. But once we get it completely manned up and organized, we're going to see a lot more of that. Now, for right now, we are assisting, which means that the state fire marshal will still be granting permit approvals. Eventually, in the next few years, that will begin shifting over to us on various campuses. We will take over that responsibility directly. Similarly, at this point, state fire marshal will continue to do fire marshal inspections on campus. And over time, that will begin shifting into our division. Eventually, we will be pretty self-sufficient in everything related to fire safety, permitting, and inspections. And my right-hand assistant is Arlene Lee on here. We'll let her introduce herself down the road a little bit. I still have contact in with Jim Sauerbauer and Jim Hoffman. We like to say that this is the idea of evolution in construction services. It went from Jim to Jim to Jim to Tim. So we are slowly expanding ourselves and our horizons on here. Next slide. A little bit about myself. My main goal, again, is to be a super coach and make sure that we're doing everything we need to do, both internally and externally, to keep ourselves positioned to be effective on here. So I oversee all the different groups on that. You'll also discover that I've got a few tricks up my sleeves. I've been responsible for managing over 20 billion in public works construction over my career. And that's everything from permitting to design to construction and being in the operations seat and having to maintain these things after we build them. So we've got quite a bit of resource and knowledge in here and happy to bring them into this project. Next.
I'm Sandra Gonzalez. I've been able to meet or speak with many of you. I filled the position of Barbara Nicholson, who was here for over 30 years. So there are big shoes to fill, and we are doing our best. I've been here since the end of September. I want to make sure everybody knows we want to provide you the greatest service possible and be a resource for you to come and ask questions. We are still learning. There's no dumb questions. I love working through issues and figuring them out together. We're responsible for all of the documents and all of the every piece of paper that goes with every delivery or delivery method for each of your projects. And we know we need to update them, and we are working quickly on those, and we'll make sure that we keep everyone in the know. So please feel free to reach out to us and ask any questions you might have. We're really happy to work with you.
All right. Hi, I'm Edward, the construction program manager. I support Sandra in her section and really been focusing on the updating the website, making those forms, one, available, and two, updated and current and useful. That's been quite undertaking. I'm also assisting in the Osip program administration, and just here to answer any questions that anyone may have regarding bidding and construction stuff, and helping folks with data collection.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Terry Carr. Some of you know me, some of you don't. So my primary functions are pre-qualification, OSIP, and BRIP process. So any of the questions pertaining to those, please feel free to contact me. And anything beyond that, feel free to contact me. And if I can't help you, then I will certainly field your inquiry. And we will move on. Also, I'd actually like to say real quick that our new team, they are so great. I'm so comfortable. I was very worried with losing all the knowledge base with Barbara and Jim, and this has been such an easy transition. I'm just thankful for them all.
Yeah, luckily Terry's been able to train all of us.
No, I think that's Arlene.
Yes.
Hi guys, I'm Jeremy Gummeljack. I'm actually Jay Jefferson's replacement. I'm in Kevin Lout's group. I'm here to help with the implementation of AB 262, the Buy Clean California, procurement of system-wide job contracts, construction manager for the Chancellor's Office tenant improvements. And Kevin just appointed me this, I'm the Construction Services Training Specialist. Try to say that 4 times fast. A little bit of background about myself. I grew up back east. My dad's a general contractor, so I literally grew up on construction sites. I worked in New York City as a permit expediter, and I pulled permits in all 5 boroughs, which was pretty challenging. And if you ever want to hear some good stories, I've got them from New York City. I also studied construction management at Cal State East Bay. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carmen. I'm a student assistant. I attend Cal State Long Beach. I am in my last semester this fall, which is very exciting. And it's very exciting to join the team. They're all wonderful people, and I'm looking forward to helping them more. And so I assist with activities and support the Construction Services Department. I help a little bit of with everything. And currently, I think a big task is updating the forms in the new CPDC website. So I'm very much looking forward to being a helpful resource for them. And I'm also going to be helping out with the Wants to Be a Millionaire training. So I'm very excited about that. Fun fact about me, I like running, and before COVID times, I used to be a face painter. And so I'm very much looking forward to possibly doing that again. So hopefully, but yeah.
All right, thanks, Carmen. And we'll get down in a few more slides with some of the programs that Carmen's going to be reaching out to some of the campuses for information. So we'll chat about that in a little bit. Then myself, so I'm Kevin Laut, Director of Construction Management here at the Chancellor's Office. Aside from reading the bullets, I see my main role as kind of the honeybee for the system, because our campuses know how to do campus projects better than anybody else, especially on their campus. So we are definitely not here trying to tell people how to perform their projects, because everybody's different, and the level of expertise that we have across the campus is amazing. And sometime I'd like to add up all the years of experience we have on our campuses and see how many hundreds or thousands of years that is. So I see myself as the honeybee. All of our campuses have that expertise, the best practices, and the lessons learned. So I try to absorb as much of it as I can, either by interacting or working with the campuses, and then distributing that across the system. So I lead the construction management affinity group with Mark Zakor at Cal State Long Beach. And again, he is a great resource. And our goal with that group, which I think I've actually got a separate slide for that, is to one, bring all the campuses together. So I think that networking is super important, as well as share all those best practices and lessons learned. As we can all read through our documents and read our procedures, but it's always all the issues that are between the lines or in the gray area is where people get stuck or have questions. So with that, that's where I'm here to support as well. If there's something that you can't find, or is in the gray, or is between the lines, or if you're having any issues, feel free to pick up the phone, call myself or somebody at our office, and we'll help you work out those issues. We also work directly with our Office of General Counsel. So if it's a legal issue that we can't directly answer, we'll coordinate with our counsel team to make sure that it's an appropriate response, or to get their input and opinion. And then I'm also kind of a tech person as well. So I'm always looking at what kind of tools and services can we provide for our campuses or help support for the campuses. So we'll talk about a few of those as well. And then my background, before I came to CSU, I worked as a general contractor for about 8 years, mostly doing healthcare work, a little bit of K through 12. So I worked for a major general contractor that does a lot of work on our campuses. So I've got a decent perspective on what it looks like on the other side of the table. But that also means I know a lot of the games that those guys could play as well, and can help out with identifying those. And then I'm also very involved with industry relations with LCI, CMMAA, AGC, basically just promoting CSU and our projects as a whole. And then also with owners committees to help share our best practices to other owners and get those best practices from other public and private owners. So we team up with UC a lot. We have different organizations that people from like Apple and Google. So it's good getting all that feedback and then trying to distribute that information to everybody. And then I save the most important for last. So Arlene Lee, she's our construction management specialist. She's been around the CSU system for quite a long time, and I will say she has probably been responsible for training most of our staff in a lot of the processes and administration of what we do. So she's been a fantastic resource. She supports everybody in our department. She's also been helping to support the fire safety departments. Any process and technical questions, she's always our go-to. And then she also administers and oversees our construction services email address. So any questions that come in through our general email address, she'll help distribute those or answer them to the right people. And then she also spends a large amount of time every year, which it turns out being close to 6 months, on bidding out the system-wide job contracts, which we'll talk about. which is a resource for all the campuses, and millions of dollars of work is completed under those contracts. And she takes the time to actually bid out all of those every single year. So hopefully we'll get legislation to where we can extend those contracts, but right now they're yearly. And everybody wants to send a thank you to Arlene. She supports that. So we approved it, and so we'll see. All right, and then we'll jump into some of the CPDC programs. So the next few slides is overall on what we do as a whole, aside from individually. So our number one role is the campus support. We're here to try to help make everybody be successful. So if you ever get stuck, that's what we're here for. And if there's issues with forms and processes, our goal is to remove those barriers so we can keep moving forward. And here are a few items that people commonly will ask us for is training. This photo right here is the production training, which is also known as like the last planner. We did a little tour around some of the campuses to do this training workshop to try to train everybody on our lean scheduling, which is actually in our Division 1 spec as an option to use on our projects. We're involved in bid protests, substitution, clarifications on maintenance versus projects, and then obviously claims resolution. So if the best time to stop a claim is before it starts. So if anything starts looking pre-claim or people are out of pocket, reach out, and sometimes we can be a good third-party mediator to help kind of work out an issue and potentially get a line in the sand change order in the project. So that way you can move forward with the rest of the project without those previous issues moving forward. So use us as a resource for that. Tim's got a lot of great experience just across the board, and we would be happy to help. All right, and some of the project roles. So in our documents, you'll see trustees, construction administrator, and project manager. On our campuses, obviously there's nobody on the campus that's the trustee, but obviously the trustees, as part of our delegation, that those responsibilities are delegated down to the campus representatives. So usually the VP or AVPs, and then the construction administrator is at somewhere that mid to higher level, which is the person that mostly makes or has the final say on decisions for the project. So mostly responsible for controlling the scope, make sure the team's aligning with all of our policies and procedures, and especially legislation, as well as monitoring the project, and usually has the ultimate signature authority to some level. So these are structured a little bit different on each campus, but you'll see construction administrator in a lot of our documents as the main CSU person that's responsible for managing or for overseeing management of the projects. And then we have our project managers. So most campuses have project managers. Some elect to use a mixture of in-house and third-party, and even some, I think, use mostly third-party. So the project manager is the extension of the construction administrator, and will be doing the day-to-day management of the projects, and will be the one that's in the most contact with everybody. So the project, or the roles of the project manager, are too long to ever define. Luckily, we got some tools with our checklists that we'll talk about a little bit on how to try to simplify all the roles that'll take, especially when you're hiring a third-party project manager, to hopefully quickly get them on board of what they need to do for CSU if they're not familiar with CSU. And then we have the inspector of record, and they are almost an extension of the deputy building officials that are there day-to-day coordinating with the project manager to ensure that all the inspections are taking place, all the work is installed within code compliance, and helping oversee. So sometimes inspector of records will be used as the kind of the 24/7 set of eyes for the project manager that's reviewing T&M tickets and head counts, and just overseeing the work and bringing issues to the project manager. So it's always really good to have really good communication with your inspector of record. A few of the other roles is the campus deputy building official. So they do the validation of the code compliant process. So ultimately, they're responsible to ensure that projects that need to be permitted are, and then that once they're permitted, that they're inspected and closed out with code compliance, and they will issue the certificate of occupancy for that project. The campus architect. So each campus should have an architect on staff or staff members defined as the campus architect, and they provide the leadership and management of the design process. So to make sure that the design of the project ultimately meets all the requirements. So with some of the delivery methods we're talking about here in a few slides, requirements are moving more towards performance rather than prescriptive. So the architect or the campus architect, the more weight that they pull early on developing the owner project requirements and the performance criteria, as well as some of the prescriptive criteria on how the project needs to look, is really important for the success of the project. So I'm sure we'll have other training down the road on talking about owner project requirements, but that's a very important early phase of a project before it goes out to bid that sometimes gets completed too late or overlooked. And then lastly, we have the design professionals. Title 24 requires projects to have a design professional for that type of scope that ultimately signs off as a licensed professional. So most projects will require some sort of licensed professional to design or oversee design, and then ultimately confirm that everything's been installed. So make sure you keep in touch with your design professionals and bring them on site to verify and validate that the work is being installed per plan, and that any changes throughout the construction phase are being implemented and reviewed by the design professional and the deputy building official as they go in. All right, system-wide project initiatives. So this is another item that CSU prides themselves for. Jim and Jim previously spent a long time working on our collaborative design build delivery method, which has won some awards and kind of set a precedence in the industry as something to strive for. It aligns pretty closely with the DBIA design or progressive design build, but it's very progressive for public owners. I'm in a lot of public owner forums, and a lot of people are still doing design bid build, which is kind of the old rudimentary way of procuring projects. And collaborative design build changes the paradigm of how people think about projects, changes the commitments and rewards and risks of all the different team members. So obviously it's too much to get into today. We will have separate training on our different delivery methods and why you would want to select one over the other. But this is more to demonstrate is that most public entities don't have all the newer and progressive collaborative delivery methods that we have. So we pride ourselves on trying to stay ahead of the curve and keep moving forward to keep up with the industry, again, to make us an owner of choice, which adds competition to all the contractors that are bidding our projects and ultimately, hopefully improving the outcome of our projects. I talked a little bit about the production planning specification. So that is a lean process. We hope to continue to implement lean processes throughout our documents. And then we also support various technologies, which we'll talk about these in some later slides. And then last but not least, this is one of our first, but not the first, kind of kickoff in our new digital training program. So we are going to try to put together a fairly robust curriculum of online videos, hopefully some short ones that are on specific topics, and then some longer ones like this. So we start to build a database resource. So this is one of our new goals that we had before COVID, but luckily COVID's helping us kick it off in the right direction by forcing our hand. All right, procurement. So obviously procurement, we'll talk to this a lot better than myself, but the main point on this slide is procurement's done a little bit differently on each campus. Some campuses have a lot more procurement staff than others. Some procurement departments perform a lot more functions than others on how they interact with facilities and the capital team. So the goal of this is if you haven't really met or had a specific kind of separate meeting with your procurement that's doesn't have an agenda, just kind of a meet and greet to talk about how does that process look on your campus, that could be valuable, especially for any of your newer staff, just to have an understanding on that interaction, because they are a critical partner in this chain. And if that means that we need to bring them in on more training, so that's been our goal with today and our future training, is to target our procurement partners a lot more, because they're a very important part of the process. All right, and with that, I will kick it over to Mr. Edward.
All right. So right now, the CSURMA was formed in '97, and as you can see, they've been around for over 20 years now. And with that, there's been a lot of exciting things, including the Osip program, which I'm sure most of you have interacted with. We're in this Osip program, we really think that we're reaching our stride, and with our current program and the competitive rates, we're definitely an innovative resource in the industry. This has been a really good partnership with CSURMA, and we do meet regularly with them to discuss any questions that arise from the program administration and to continually improve the program in any way we can. Currently, there are over 50 projects enrolled or just newly added to the Osip program. And as projects start ramping up to get underway, they're added to the program. So at any one point in time, we could have tens of projects enrolled in the program. And again, that continues to create market viability and improve our rates that we're able to get. Let's see, next slide, please.
Yeah, and CSURMA, they administer all of our, or if not most of our system-wide insurance programs. So we coordinate with them specifically for construction insurance. But if you guys are working on different insurance claims, I know a handful of campuses are doing COVID-related claims under other insurance policies. CSURMA, the California State University Risk Management Authority, would be kind of your main point of contact to discuss the different insurance options. And then we support them with the Osip program, specifically with tracking and billing projects.
So here, Alliant is the Osip program broker that administers the program and serves as project partner in regards to the insurance program. It's their role is contingent on the campuses getting them involved early in the process so that they can best assist in your project success. So let me just take a moment there to discuss enrollment and how that kind of kicks off and the criticality of it. There is an enrollment form, and it's located on the CPDC website within the hub under our construction insurance programs page. And it must be completed in order to kick off or begin the enrollment process. One of the key pieces that we need is to make certain that the information that is being provided on that form is correct and accurate. It makes our lives and everyone else's lives much easier when we're not using estimates, but we're using the most accurate information we have. I get that start dates, end dates, that kind of thing is a little bit floating because you can't predict exactly when a project's going to end. But just do your best on those. But dollars, we need to know the actual amounts that you're looking to award, the actual construction value that'll happen. And also, we do verify that information with the data in MetaBIM. And then when we see a discrepancy, it puts a little bit more on us to have to scramble and get that fixed. So we're just asking, again, that this is a critical element, and really look for your support and getting information on that form as accurate as possible. Another thing to do is to reach out to Alliant as you have projects getting ready to go out to bid. Alliant has asked and offers to meet with the contractor, the general contractor, pre-NTP. So you kind of need to know who your contractor is. You can't do it too early, and you have to do it before you start the work. And it's important because typically contractors enter into their subcontracts once the NTP is issued. And this would allow an explanation to the general as to how to coordinate with their subs in getting them registered into the OSIP program. Again, the more your contractor and the subs understand the program, the better the program will function for everyone. And this will just make everything go a lot smoother. So if you have a project that doesn't have a bid, like a task order type project, then do reach out to Alliant to coordinate a meeting just prior to the NTP being issued. They're very responsive. And again, you have the team here at Construction Services ready to support you in any issues that may arise. The next slide, please. So this slide shows the comparison between the traditional and the OSIP insurance structure. And as you can see, the OSIP program takes control of the insurance from the contractors and subs and places it solely in the owner's hands. We had a recent case study where a large respected contractor in the industry challenged our OSIP rates and felt that they could shop the market and get better rates. Well, we told them, go do that and come back to us if you find a better deal. And guess what happened? They came back and asked to be included into the OSIP program because they couldn't find better rates on the open competitive market. Now just think about that for a second. This is a contractor who has years of history of construction performance, safety, has paid tens of thousands of dollars over the life of the company with a variety of sureties, and they couldn't find a better rate with their track record. So this speaks volumes to what we're doing here, and this speaks volumes to the program and what it means to the CSU. It is a good program. So I want to make sure that everyone really gets bought into this. And be on the lookout. We're organizing some training on OSIP that's going to be coming up in the near future, and we're working to put together the training and look forward to walking through the program in greater detail at that time.
And the other main point I'd like to mention too is it's actually better coverage. So if you look at the normal policies that a contractor would provide on a project versus what we get through OSIP, it's better coverage and we have more control over the coverage. So we'll go into detail in the OSIP training on why and what makes it better. But for right now, what we're seeing is it's better and cheaper. It does take a little bit of legwork. So we hope that we're getting the payout, and it looks like we are.
May I discuss builder's risk?
Go for it.
Okay, builder's risk. So builder's risk and OSIP are two separate programs. Builder's risk is covering your project, the building and such, whereas OSIP is covering, workers' comp, other items that are not covered under builder's risk. So they are two separate programs. And as most of you are aware, you submit your builder's risk application through MetaBIM. That's for any major cap project. So anything, as it says here, in excess of $752,000. However, if you have a project that bids as a minor cap but comes in, the value is awarded as a major, it must be enrolled. If you have a major advertised as a major using those general conditions, however, is awarded as a minor, you still must enroll in the builder's risk program. With that said, I'd like to share my screen. Is that okay, Kevin?
Go for it.
Okay. So, alrighty. Oop. So let me go here. It says somebody else is sharing their screen. Okay, this is my screen. All right, so this is the MetaBIM dashboard. I'm sure most of you are familiar with. For the sake of this presentation, I went ahead and I created an application. Let's see if I can find that. Oh, let me go back in. All right, So I created this application on the, can I get rid of that? And for some reason, my view is, okay, here we go. I created this on the Chancellor's Office on our own portal for builder's risk, but I just wanted to show a new function here. Now you are to go in and create a insurance application at time of notice to contractors. So when you have advertised, you can upload the NTC here. However, you must create the application first. So it requires specific information such as what I have entered here. Of course, you wouldn't know the contractor. Project numbers, if you don't have them, then you don't know them, you can actually just put in the campus initials and then XXX, and we'll get to that later. But this is so we can track the projects. The campuses in a perfect world are to send us the advertisement prior to advertising so we can review the notice to contractors and make sure the content relevant to our offices is correct, because we're updating things and sometimes the links are outdated. So we just like to get a quick rundown of that. So you can go in here, create the application, upload the notice to contractors. You just put in, your estimates. The 2-7 has estimate dates when the project starts, any of this information as far as the CV. And this way we can track the project and we hopefully won't miss enrolling anything in builder's risk. I do want to point out one thing on these, a couple things on these applications. We have these rate table here. A lot of times campuses aren't aware, but we have a separate, right here, a hyperlink, which will give you a rundown and a more defined description of what those type of projects would be. So you would go in there, pick your appropriate rate, and just fill in the bubble. However, for projects such as this, which are seismic, you'll see that there's something under structural renovations. This may fall. There's these items, refer. We'll use this one. Here, it means that you have to submit this additional application to Alliant. They have to send it to the underwriter for review because this project has specific scope that falls under a different, could possibly fall under a different rate. So you would fill out this application. It's embedded there in multiple places on the application through MetaBIM. So you would find it here, but anywhere where you hit the submit, that application will pop up. So you would complete that. That goes to Alliant. I'm copied. And that way we're aware of the project ahead of time. And this avoids any, like I said, projects not being enrolled timely. There's a whole other process for that, which, it's just more work for the campus. So this is actually a great way for the campuses to notify us of a notice to contractors. So for those of you who aren't familiar with MetaBIM or do not have an account, you can go in and you can apply for an account. So, it's just a feature that is really great. We will be, not only encouraging, but requiring the campuses to upload their notice to contractors here. So we will be rolling that out. It is rolled out, and I will, in my next notification, as you all know, I send out quarterly notifications for updates to MetaBIM or your projects to be enrolled in MetaBIM. This description will be outlined in my email for a reminder. So this is for any project, any major cap project, they must be enrolled. So that is that for MetaBIM. Oh, and I do want to mention that any of the projects, as far as OSIP task orders, they would not be enrolled in OSIP because OSIP is for 10 million and greater. And those, as you know, task orders cannot exceed 7 million. So any of the task orders, however, that are contracted for the amount of a major cap must be enrolled. So not the MOU, but each individual task order. If it happens to be under the value of a major cap, then you don't need to enroll it. But if the task order is in excess, then you need to enroll it. And in like some campuses, they wish to enroll their minor caps. That's totally up to you. It's not mandatory, but if you wish to enroll all projects, you may do that. And I think I covered that.
All right, and then we do have information on our new website. That's yet again another training that we're working on building, is navigating the website from a construction perspective on where the various new resources are and how to find them, because we're working on refining those every day.
Okay, and I do see a question about the application. Once you create the application, you can't cancel it, but the application, it's simply an application, and until it's actually approved, it's not enrolled. So an application, once you create it, it's there. I can delete it, but this is just one way of tracking, and anything can be changed in that application. So until I approve it, you can change it. Once it's approved, and say, there's a mistake, we can take care of that. So it's always adjustable. I have more ability than a campus. Once it's enrolled, I can adjust some of the prior figures, but the applications, if there's any problem with them, just contact me directly and I'm happy to walk you through anything.
Thank you, Terry. All right, and then pre-qualification. So one thing I did want to point out, or actually, Terry, you want to take this one too?
Sure, but what did you want to point out?
Well, I was actually thinking of the advertisement slide, so go for it.
Okay. Okay, so again, I handle pre-qualification. For any of your major cap projects, contractors are required to be pre-qualified system-wide. It's financial pre-qualification. We use Planet Bids. We have been since 2015. It's still our same process, our same criteria. We just use this electronic format now. If you do wish your contractors to be financially pre-qualified for minor cap, you may require that as well. What's really important from the campus standpoint, when we have these contractors pre-qualified, the criteria is a mix of financial, safety, bonding, and also performance. So when you receive an evaluation request from us, please do, reply to that. Be honest, because this actually will affect a rating of a contractor. Rating meaning, okay, they may be pre-qualified for 15 million now, but gee, the last few projects they've been on at CSU, they haven't been performing well. We don't necessarily disqualify them, but we will limit their ability to bid. So it is very important for the campuses to be forthcoming with their references. And, that way they really are valuable to us. So we do value the campus input, and we do take it into consideration. So please always do respond to evaluation requests. And also at the end of your projects, there is a evaluation form that should be submitted to us anyways, but we don't always receive those. So we do value campus input, and we do apply it to the contractors. That's that.
With that, we'll jump back to Edward.
All right. So CPDC Construction Services has 2 web locations where valuable information resides. And I'm sure by now you're all familiar with the CSYOU site. And hopefully by now you've had a chance to navigate the newer calstate.edu site. The CPDC site is calstate.edu/CPDC. It's pretty easy to remember, or you can bookmark it. We are continually working to get the website fully operational. There is a banner at the top of the new site that we're still in beta form, so we're still working out the kinks, and there are quite a few. But we're targeting early September to have all the project delivery forms on the revamped delivery pages. And we continue to actively update the forms as needed. Let's see. Once you visit the calstate.edu/CPDC page, you can navigate to any of the several options to get you where you want to go. You can navigate through our project resources, or you could locate CPDC staff, possibly take a look at some training material, or any information regarding some of the affinity groups. Can you go to the next slide, please?
And yeah, the last thing to point out on this slide, which I'm sure you'll extend on the next two, is that we do have an externally facing and an internal facing website. So our intranet has this path in the CSYOU, and this is where we post some of the more internal facing. So luckily, all of our work is public work, so most of our documents are public, and there's not much that we keep behind the curtain. But there are some agreements and some other kind of training materials that we do keep within the walls of our intranet. So just be aware if you can't find something on the external website that it might actually be on the intranet. So we do have two separate places where we store. We try to minimize what's really on the intranet, but there will be some things in there that these guys will talk about.
And Kevin's absolutely right about that. Oftentimes we'll keep agreements or other things that we just don't want out there widely available to the public. And we keep those, and we're even in talks of possibly putting some sample examples as their sample documents. And so we'll get into that deeper. So here we have several pages located throughout the CPDC site and that can give you access to information such as our bulletins and areas where forms are located to aid you in successful project delivery. So the website is your tool, but CPDC staff is also available to answer any questions or respond to any concerns that you may have. We're all resources as well. There is a email that you could reach out to. It's contactcpdc@calstate.edu, and that's a resource for you to be able to send any questions that you may have regarding something you experienced on the website, or some sort of question you may have regarding something related to the website. So anyways, and the bulletins are all going to be here. We have reformatted our nomenclature, so they'll all be BU coming out. And this is the hub is where the bulletins are stored, and a great place for that resource. So if you haven't done it, take a tour, click around, see what you can find. You may be surprised at how easy it is to navigate. And just to let you know, we will be working on putting together some training on the new website and the forms and the navigation tips that we've developed. And hopefully that'll make your web experience a lot better and your use much easier.
All right, Mr. Jeremy.
Hey guys, how's it going? I just wanted to let you poke around inside of the internal website. So on this particular slide, you're going to be able to see the construction management regional job order contract agreements. So this is for our 11 in the Northern California State University campuses and for our 12 Southern California State campuses. We just got new immediate response contracts. You can see those right here, but if you go to the original, or rather to the new CPDC website, you can't see this stuff there. So you'll actually click on a site and it'll bring you back to this, because it's internal information that we don't want the whole public to see. So just as Edward was just saying. So next slide, please.
Yeah, and the wording on this is a little weird. It says construction management. These aren't construction management contracts. They're general or specialty trade contracts. So we'll probably try to get that deleted. But this is where the main JOC contracts that we're looking for is.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different CSU delivery methods, or as I like to say, there are different hard hats that you can use to work on contracts here at CSU. So let's just go over a few of them right now. So the first is a collaborative design build. This is a delivery method that's a hybrid of the construction manager at risk and a collaborative design build method. The CBD consists of a phase one agreement in which the owner and design builder collaborate to develop a set of design build documents and a guaranteed maximum price, a GMP, that's based on those documents, and a phase two design build agreement as a product of the scope and GMP developed in phase one. You also have the construction manager at risk, which is a delivery method in which a construction manager and licensed contractor are used to provide pre-construction services in phase one to inform the design and a separate construction contract, which would be like a phase two, to deliver that project. The design team then develops the construction management documents with the information provided by the owner and the CM at phase one. The construction manager will commit to a guaranteed maximum price that is developed throughout phase one. Design build, I think we're all pretty familiar with, but it's a delivery method in which the owner awards a single agreement for the design and construction after selecting a project through a best value project completion in the design build delivery method. Job order contracting, which we kind of just touched upon, are annual construction contracts with a pre-qualified contractor to accomplish minor capital outlay maintenance, repair, or improvement projects by utilizing Gordian or their construction task order catalog for the pricing. So as I said before, there's a northern and southern campuses have the following contracts at their disposal. There's an immediate response, a general construction, a hazmat abatement, and a paving contracts that they can use to get your minor cap projects done. So each job order is limited to their minor cap project threshold, which is now $752,000. And that amount should actually contain that Gordian fee as well. We've also created jock huddles to help the campuses out. The first one was very successful, it was a couple of weeks ago, and jock huddle number 2 is coming up. It's scheduled for August 14th at 9 a.m. You can actually register to join us. It's a very informal talk that we have talking about some of the Gordian big note items, as well as our experiences with the contractors that we're using now. We kind of gossip about them a little bit, but just to kind of give you a better idea of how to get your projects done on that minor cap side more effectively. So please go to the training website, the CPDC training website, and sign up for our next jock huddle number 2 on August 14th at 9 a.m. Finally, we got the design build, the design bid build. So now that is the traditional method of project delivery, which involves linear building, bidding, and construction phases. Project construction documents are developed first by a design entity. The documents are competitively bid, and the project is awarded to the contractor with the lowest price, who is pre-qualified, responsive, and responsible. So now we kicked out the TOCA down here at the bottom because the TOCA is kind of different, because the TOCA is a procurement method program for it's a procurement method program for as a delivery method used for performing multiple projects as individual tasks under a single master enabling agreement, or an MEA. Each task can be executed as a construction manager at risk, or even a collaborative design build to delivery. Next slide, please. So best value selection. So California Public Contract Code 10708 says that work under this section shall be carried out by a contractor chosen by a competitive bidding process that employs selection criteria in addition to cost. So selection is actually based on an RFQ and the RFP. So this form right here is extremely useful because it allows you to be able to quantify and under certain criteria to pay careful attention during the interviews to the contractors, that the committee should discuss point by point scoring and agree on the general selection that they make, basically doing it all together. And don't forget that the number of bidders and how they submit it is going to determine the success of the project. So if you don't have very many bidders, you might be in some trouble, because the more bidders, the better. And it's also important to inform the bidders of how that selection was made and use it as like a learning exercise for them. So hopefully maybe they can come on later. Next slide, please. This is a very useful asset that we use at CPDC. It's the major project checklist. It's a comprehensive checklist of actions and activities for each phase of the project, basically taking it from soup to nuts. It's effective to get the project started and built. It focuses on policy, procedures, best practices, and it's a dynamic tool for frequent reference. So you can kind of keep going back to this and actually pass it from team to team at your university. Next slide, please. This we're actually using right now. It's at the Chancellor's office. It's the project closeout checklist. It's an effective tool to get that project closed out. It's a comprehensive list of a checklist of actions and activities for each phase of the project. There you'll see policy, procedures, best practices, and it's again another dynamic tool for frequent reference to get your project closed out. And all these forms are actually located on the CPDC website. You can actually you can click and actually search in the reference file and find both of these checklists. Next slide, please. Excellent. Arlene, I think I'm going to need your help on this one a little bit. So, guys, and I think Kevin's going to chip in on this one a little bit too. So this is project advertising. So by law, all your bids must be submitted to Fiscal eProcure. And Planet Bids is another great option to have because it relieves you of the obligation of having to advertise your bid in 2 different places, basically taking 2 birds with 1 stone. But there's something very important. Arlene, do you want to tell them about the checkbox?
Did you include the instructions?
I did not include the instructions.
Okay, let me see if I can get that over there.
And we can send that out after if needed.
Yeah. Arlene's got great instructions on how to post onto Fiscal and Planet Bids.
Yeah. So one point I wanted to make on this is sometimes there's some question about whether we still need to post on Fiscal or not. I understand or believe there's an MOU on the procurement side for goods and services that if they're posted through CalUSource, which I understand is also being phased out, that Fiscal is not required. But for public works projects, there is to make our projects available to small businesses, micro businesses, and disabled veteran business enterprises. There's actually other sections. I think it's a government code section and a military and veterans code section that also mention posting in Fiscal. So even though we might not post all of our goods and services in Fiscal, anything that's a public works or a public works related service to where we are tracking and trying to support small businesses and DVBE, it's important that we're using Fiscal in addition to our secondary resource. And the secondary can be publications in North and South, or it can be a system that has similar reach. We use Planet Bids. I think Planet Bids works on a handful of campuses, but that secondary resource, as long as it's got outreach to Northern and Southern California, it's usually acceptable as that second form. But just make sure everything is going on to Fiscal, even if it's just a link that sends you to your secondary source. All right, go ahead, Arlene.
Okay, can you see the instructions?
Yep.
Okay. If you go into Planet Bids, you want to go into bid management, which is right here. Okay. Then if you go here, you'll see this other screen. You can add your bid, and then you input all your information that's required. The important part is to go to the very bottom and click that box that says advertise bid. If you do not click that box, it doesn't go to the Planet Bids public solicitation portal, which is this portal right here. So you would hit start, and then your bid will be posted on the solicitation portal. Now, if you want to see just your one campus, you can press this agency drop-down menu and choose your campus, and then you can see your bid by your campus. So this, by posting on Planet Bids, you eliminate the requirement that you have to advertise in the 2 trade papers of general circulation, one published in LA, one published in San Francisco. That eliminates having that cost of advertising in newspapers. So that's why we did that.
Yeah. And most of our trade partners have some sort of plan room aggregator, and Planet Bids is definitely on that aggregator. So if you post to Planet Bids, it's very likely that you'll get a very wide shot. Whereas some of the CSU tools, like CaluSource or the new ones, if they're not adopted by those plan rooms yet, or we haven't pushed them out to the plan rooms, then they might not be part of those aggregators. And the contractors might not be getting those automatic notifications. I do believe those aggregators are pulling everything off Fiscal. So, and that's the main source. So if you're getting stuff on Fiscal, you've got the highest likelihood of getting the most reach to everyone.
And what's great about Planet Bids, Kevin, is that you can actually see who's been looking at your project. I remember the first time Arlene showed me, I mean, we posted something and all the contractors look at it, but CM firms were looking at it too. So like, there's a lot of people tracking what you post on Planet Bids, just as long as you click off that box. I didn't do the box and Arlene set me straight. So make sure you click off that box to post it. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and just the final clarification is Fiscal does not replace Planet Bids. You always need Fiscal and then one other resource. So we find that these two have been working best for us, but other campuses have other tools that, as long as they have the same reach and are accessible to the public, they can work as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. So AB 262, the Buy Clean California Act. So basically, the Public Contract Code 3500 through 3505 states that the Department of General Services is now required to establish and publish the maximum acceptable global warming potential. That's the GWPs. So the BCCA targets embedded carbon emissions of structural steel. So that'd be hot rolled sections, hollow structural sections, and plate, concrete reinforcing steel, flat glass, and mineral wool board insulation. These materials must have a GWP that does not exceed that limit set by the DGS. So this limit, it actually has not been set yet. So at this time, the only thing we have to do on our campuses and at CSU is just to report to DGS. So that's just reporting the EPDs to them. So if you guys want to learn more about this, I've actually made a whole like a webinar with DGS and MetaBIM. So they actually go through and they'll show you how to find that information for your EPDs, and then MetaBIM comes in and shows you how to enter it into MetaBIM so we can track it. But guys, it's a requirement now, so we actually have to do it on all of our projects, all of our major CAP projects. But please contact me for more information on that. I'm actually going to throw the webinar YouTube link in the chat box. But we had a lot of fun with it, and we look forward to doing more informational sessions with DGS. There's actually the front page of it right there. So let me throw this in the chat box for everybody. Excellent. There you go. Kevin, if you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah, and this training, it's a good high level of what AB 262 is, how to find EPDs, and then how to report those to us so that we can report them on behalf of the system as required by the new legislation.
Correct. And just to reiterate, we're not, those allowable limits, we're not going to know yet until like January 1st, 2021. But right now, they just want us to get in the habit of reporting the EPDs. And that's why this video is here to not only instruct you about what EPDs are, but how to enter them into MetaBIM effectively.
And we're using 3 million plus as our cutoff, right, for reporting?
Correct, yeah.
Yep, so there's a question in the chat box. I don't think it's clearly defined. So as a organization, we're able to define that, and we thought that would make sense. So it's not overly cumbersome on small projects.
Right. Oh, that's actually a great question from Kimberly. The reporting on the campus, so that's going to be done because MetaBIM is only available to campus folks. The contractor is going to give you the EPDs, and they're going to actually we would take them. Well, your department would take them and enter them into the MetaBIM. And I'll send that link again. Somebody just said that it didn't work. But real quick, PM Web, it's a cloud-based, it's a service that we're working on for you guys. It's very exciting. It's a cloud-based solution that's geared for construction project management. So it's going to serve CSU engineers, general contractors, and other construction trades during the construction process. This is actually it's kind of one of the earlier pages, but we were just working on it yesterday. And there's a lot of great landing pages where you're going to be able to see, it's going to be able to track financial cost tracking, project dashboards, and overviews of inspections, punch lists, RFIs, and submittals. So please stay tuned. It looks like we're going to be doing the beta testing for this construction management software sometime this fall. So.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. And just the heads up on this, we will be using PM Web for the planning and databasing of our projects, replacing our capital management database. The construction forms portion, which is really project management, will be optional. So if you guys have a project management tool that you prefer, or prefer to use your contractor's tool, you can use that, but this will now be an option if the contractor doesn't bring anything to the table, or you would prefer that all of the project information is under your control. Your campus can elect to start using this. It will be, or access will be provided. I think we're getting at least one license to each campus, so it can be used as is for free. And then if you want to do additional configurations, we have rates worked out with a system-wide MEA to where your campus can work on a campus implementation to further refine. So the main thing we're working out with our beta testing is really putting together the procedures and the training material so that we have something to work off of when we roll it out. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and we'll definitely have some more training there. B&I Conceptual Estimator. Most people that's been in my training have definitely heard about this before. It was rebranded Simple Est, and it is a conceptual estimator / database. So this is a tool that we signed a system-wide master enabling agreement with B&I. They publish some of the main construction publications such as NFPA, but they also do a lot of cost and estimating services as well. But the reason we're using this tool is so that we can collect and database CSU project data. And we'll do that in CSI format based on square foot unit costs. So you'll see emails from myself, Carmen, and Edward asking your campus to provide us some of the final cost information. All we really need is the final pay application for the project that shows all the final costs broken down by trade. And then there's a small Smartsheet form that asks about some project information, just square footage, size, building type. And then we send that to Simple Est and they'll put it in their database. Once we get 5 projects from your campus, we will give you guys a free license to access that database. And that'll allow campuses to access CSU cost data, which is going to be a little more reliable and applicable to us than the industry cost data that's there. So eventually down the road, once we have dozens or even hundreds of projects in there, you'll be able to go and find another similar project. So if you're doing a new classroom building, you can find a similar classroom building, and then the tools actually let you project it to a future construction date and a location, and it'll change the cost index to modify those square foot costs, which with a lack of any other checks and balances, it's a good starting place for an early conceptual estimate when you're really looking at feasibility. So hopefully it'll be a great tool. The usefulness will be based on how well we can populate it. So please respond to the emails. We've received some cost information from some campuses, but we haven't received all of the project information out of the form. So even if you submitted costs to us, we are going to be following up and asking for some more information on that project so that we can make that database more useful. So see more on that. Once we collect a few more projects, we'll be doing a separate training on how to use the database before we start issuing those licenses. But again, we have free licenses that we're ready to issue. We just need to collect projects so that it's valuable. This is more for awareness. If you guys haven't seen this website yet, we did create a COVID page for CPDC. And we do have some resources and documents here on the left side. So you'll find some sample letters to contractors, guidance from architecture and some of our other departments. So anything that's COVID related, if you're looking for any guidance or resources on your projects, check out this website and see if the information's there. And as always, on a daily basis, we're still providing COVID support to campuses. So please reach out if you're having issues or have contractors that are sending you notice letters. Smartsheet, this is a tool that I think pretty well started, or at least in construction in San Diego State, quite a few years ago. And since then, it's really kind of blown up. The system has recently signed a master enabling agreement. As you can see, there's quite a few licenses across all of our campuses. And what's great about Smartsheets is the amount of non-licensed users that can collaborate. So we won't go into this too detail, but just be aware that there is a master enabling agreement. You can contact IT or procurement to get access to that. And they are also rolling out the Capital Construction Management Launch Package, which is a 60-hour package at $200 an hour. So I think that's about $12,000 for a full project management solution, similar to what they're using at San Diego State. So I use Smartsheets a lot for my project management, a lot of budgeting and planning and even scheduling type tools. So it's worth looking into and is another available resource. Talked a little bit about the Construction Management Affinity Group. So these will be moving online. And since we are online, we'll have room for more people. So be on the lookout for Construction Management Affinity Group branded events and training that we have. And the goal is almost the same audience that we have today. Anybody that touches construction can be involved. And we try to design these as more of a roundtable best practice sharing rather than a stand and deliver. So, if we send out agenda items on group stuff, we ask that people that attend bring some of their best practices to the table. So be on the lookout for more of these, and hopefully we'll be able to do these in person sometime soon. CM Affinity Group Yammer page. So this is almost like an internet social feed. It is part of the Office 365 suite. So we do post a lot of current news and information. For example, that EPD training that Jeremy mentioned is posted on here. This recording will be posted on here as well. So it is kind of a central resource. And then there's also a files tab where we post all of the information that campuses share with us or agree to share online for sample documents or different processes they have to share with all the other campuses. So it is private to just people that have campus email addresses. If you guys can look it up on Yammer, or if you guys send me an email and just say, hey, can you add me to the Yammer page? And I'll add you. And that's where we get information that doesn't necessarily fit somewhere in the website, and then also allows people to voluntarily share information across the group. So we're trying to use this as a collaboration tool, especially now that we're all virtual. CM Affinity Group listserv, this link on here, which will send out these slides, takes it to a self-serve listserv. As everyone else knows, listservs and CSU are really, really hard to manage. There are a lot of people in and out and changing. So this listserv allows anybody in your campus to go in and add your own members. So whoever you want to receive emails related to the affinity group, you can go in, add them, and then whenever I send something out, I'm going to grab all the names off of there and then combine it with my previous list to make sure anybody that wants to be included is. A few resource links. So I'll send this out when it goes with the slides. The top two are off of our new website. the policy stat link, sample forms, which is on the websites. Office of General Counsel has a resource page, and then we'll be getting that Red Book information out as well. And then with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carmen to talk about training before we turn it over to our fire safety team.
So you can find recorded training as well as any upcoming training on the Capital Training Program page. I can put the link on the chat. And you will find, like I said, the training calendar as well as agendas, presentations, and recorded webcasts from prior training sessions. And there's also, for your convenience, optional participation. We also listed recommended trainings that are hosted by other agencies and our companies that may be of professional interest. Next slide. So for the upcoming scheduled training, we have the job order contract that Jeremy was talking about, and that's on August 14th. You can register there. And also, we're going to be hosting a game show for campuses to have them understand the latest trends into the construction of CSU campuses. Should be really fun. And so definitely hope that you can join us. And so it can be helpful to get up to date to new procedures that are coming. And then this is the list of the upcoming training. We have the Osip program in September, and then the Construction Services website navigation in October. Law, Design, and Construction. I believe there's going to be 2 sessions. One is going to be basic, and the other one's going to be more advanced. The first one should be in October. Yeah. If you have any suggestions of training you would like us to have, you can drop them in the chat box.
Yep. As I mentioned before, we're working on a curriculum. So obviously we want to meet the most desirable needs first. So yeah, if everybody before they sign out can throw in 1 or 2 training ideas in the chat box. And then when we do the export, we'll aggregate those and kind of see what the most popular are and try to focus our efforts on those. So thank you in advance for providing suggestions. And with that, we're going to jump over and talk about our fire safety team for the next 15 minutes, and then hopefully have a few minutes for questions at the end. And we will hang out this afternoon if people have questions and we start running out of time. So don't be worried, or throw them in the chat box. And if we don't get to them, we'll try to follow up after the meeting as well. So with that, I will toss this over to Tim. And Tim, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I want to apologize. Morgana Yankee could not be with us here this morning. She is our new Director of Fire Safety. With the installation of Morgana, that has established the critical mass within the fire safety group for us to begin assuming some serious responsibilities. The long-term goal of the Fire Safety Division is that we begin assuming permitting and plan check and approval of our projects in lieu of the state fire marshal, and also that we begin assuming designated campus fire marshal responsibilities. Obviously, we can't do all that overnight. It's something that will be incremental that we will build our way into. But we're in the process of beginning at this point. It's important to note that this is an unusual group in that they are both CPDC and yet semi-controlled by the state fire marshal. We will be acting as designated representatives of the state fire marshal. So they will be enforcing the code as envisioned by the state fire marshal, plus some of the added responsibilities that come in from CPDC regarding the overall protection of our students and assets. So it's a slightly broader hat than the state fire marshal represents right now. Now, we're in the process of organizing it. The staff are writing and preparing a lot of things right now. We have 6 separate bulletins that are in draft form that will be coming out shortly. So heads up, there will be a Fire Safety Division 101 training. We are anticipating that in early October, possibly late September. There are a couple changes that apply to all projects. We want all projects submitting major cap plans for pre-approval by the Fire Safety Division before going to the State Fire Marshal. We've begun doing that process here, and frankly, it makes a big difference. We're able to anticipate a lot of the issues that are going to come out of the State Fire Marshal and get those corrected on submittals before they go in. And our goal on here is to reduce the overall time by both reducing the number of back check cycles and by reducing the overall numbers of comments. Now, one key difference, up till now, a lot of the comments out of the Fire Safety Division have been treated as though they were suggestions or voluntary or more what you might call guidance. No more. You need to treat those as though they are a comment from the State Fire Marshal. This group has their ear to the State Fire Marshal. We know how they think. We know what they're anticipating for issues. We know how they react. So when we generate comments, it shouldn't be seen as though we are piling on to the State Fire Marshal. More likely, we've anticipated issues that are coming up and we're trying to head them off. So you need to get the word out to your designers that they need to pay attention to this. We are having to nip in the bud another problem. To be blunt, we are seeing far too much design quality control by plan check review. And for projects that let your designers do that, you're inevitably going to have a lot more comments and a lot more issues to take care of. So to the greatest extent possible, the designers need to be doing their own quality control checking on here. We're excited about getting everything rolled out. I know that this presentation has a whole lot of stay tuned in it because there's a number of things that we're doing differently within CPDC. Fire Safety Division will be the largest group that is going to roll out a lot of information on here. And we're not operating separate. Also, besides the integration of this group in with the State Fire Marshal, it's also going to be working a lot more hand in glove with EH&S, both on your campuses and in the central EH&S. We found certain gaps in how different things are being handled related to both CLARI tracking and the handling of Title 19 permit inspections on campus. And we're in the process of getting our arms around that. We'll be reaching out to you, try to get more information of figuring out who exactly is responsible for it, who's been tracking that information, and trying to improve our overall process on there. We also want to be in the position to be giving you heads up for areas that are becoming more of greater concern to the State Fire Marshal. So for instance, this fall, we know that they will be focused heavily on type R occupancy buildings, your residential units, which makes sense because they'll be one of the more heavily populated buildings on campuses. And so you can anticipate a round of fire inspections coming up on those in the very near future, and campuses should be getting ready for those. And we're in the process of also assembling a fire life safety review board. This will be a group of experts brought in to help advise us and help navigate those areas in which the code is a little bit vague or we have unique situations that apply to us here. A little bit different from some of the other boards like the mechanical review board, the seismic review board, in that they will not be directly doing plan checks, but they will be more advisory and technical experts in the unique areas that can help us go in when we do need to have a longer discussion in with the State Fire Marshal. Negotiations continue to develop an MOU by which we officially delegate responsibilities from the state fire marshal to the fire safety division. They'll be going on for a while. It's one of those awkward situations in which, as by the time the MOU is done, we will have fully implemented the capacity. And so a little bit of a chicken and egg process in there, and that's sort of the nature of it. But we're excited. It's moving very quickly. Stay tuned. This is already making a difference in our overall project delivery timing, and I anticipate it's only going to get better as we go forward. Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Is everybody doing their own, or Tim, are you going through everybody?
I'd like people to speak up. Ron, if you'd introduce yourself.
Good afternoon or good morning. We're almost at that borderline. I'm Ron Abbott, Deputy Director of Fire Safety for the Northern Campuses. Been associated with the CSU for about 25 years. Was a consultant doing inspection and construction management for a number of years. About 7-8 years ago, I was on staff with Sacramento State as the campus IOR. And 3 years ago this week, I became the initial Deputy Director of Fire Safety. For a number of years, I was kind of a one-man shop, and now we've expanded, which is greatly appreciated. Primarily roles is interfacing between the campuses and the state fire marshal, trying to provide some guidance on their interpretations of code, assistance with questions that your teams may have with the code. And also what we're really concentrating on now is trying to foresee the issues that may arise and trying to become much more heavily involved in the projects in the early stages so we can catch those potential errors before they become a problem. Many of you already have worked with, but I'm always available. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I think that probably covers it.
Mr. Gray?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Kevin?
Yep, all good.
Greg Granados, I'm Ron's counterpart of the South. Pretty much do kind of the same things. I started my career in the military. I was an Air Force firefighter. I was a public safety officer, and then I was a firefighter and a captain in the Sacramento area. I went to work for the state fire marshal back in 1989 in September, and that was great timing since I was assigned to San Francisco and the earthquake was in October. Worked for state fire marshal for about 2.5 years. Then they split us up, and I ended up at Oshkosh for about 13 years. I covered initially from Bakersfield to the Oregon border, and then I only had 20 counties, including this one little one called San Francisco. I left the state in 2001 and became a fire protection engineering specialist for Aerojet Rocketdyne, a rocket manufacturing company. That's where this picture comes from. I became the fire chief, fire marshal, and building official for rocket manufacturer, the chemical plant. Spent about 10 years there, and then I moved to Tucson as the fire chief and fire specialist for Raytheon Missile Systems, and covered kind of the western United States for them for a couple of years. Didn't like that too much because of travel. Went to work at PG&E for 4 years, and right after San Bruno, and then left them and worked with the Department of Corrections, kind of doing the same things I'm doing now for the CSU, plan development, specifications, engineering, and those types of things. So that's my background. I have a bachelor's degree in fire protection. Also am one of, I think now 30 certified California fire chiefs.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Major. I have the honor of being one of your campus fire marshals. Right now, I'm geographically assigned to Sac State. However, you might be surprised and see me show up at your campus. Duties as assigned according to Tim and Morgana, right? I have the privilege of working with the new fire safety unit. Very excited. My background started in the 90s when I was in college studying drafting, and then decided to join the fire service. Back then, before there were paramedics, they used to have different classifications of EMTs. And I was like an EMT 1A2 wilderness defibrillator guy. So worked on the ambulances in Alameda County, San Francisco County, and Contra Costa County, then became an industrial firefighter for a shipyard. Fell out of love with the fire service, so I started getting into occupational health and safety. Worked in the semiconductor industry for many years in Japan and Korea and in Silicon Valley. Then ended up getting a job with the city and county of San Francisco as an industrial investigator. 9/11 happened, and I felt that I had to be called back to the fire service. And so I got on with Alameda County Fire Department and got into being an inspector, and went back to college and studied with the National Fire Academy in hazardous materials management, and then also with Cogswell Polytech in fire administration. Ended up getting a job with OshPod, and then UC Davis as a fire marshal, and here I am at CSU. So it's a quick little background, and I'm really proud to be here, and I'm excited about what's coming, and I hope to meet all of you soon.
All right, so I'm the last guy on the totem pole here. My name is Scott Woody. I am a graduate of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, proud of it, architecture. I am a licensed architect. I come from, the design side, probably 5 to 6 years in the private practice, that is. And then I switched over, looked over the fence and went to construction management, basically, and went to a large general contractor, sort of like where Kevin came from, different company. But that company does a lot of work with the CSU system, partners up with the UC system and the CSU, and corrections, courts, a lot of public works in California. So I was there for approximately 18 and a half years. Yes, I said 18 and a half years. What I did, I started from the beginning, from field engineering, project management, design management, pre-con, and at the end of my kind of term, I was a corporate area quality manager and had all of California, and so that's why I'm very intimate in the processes with the CSU system. So with that being said, I needed to get all my ICC certs. So I am a certified building official, plans examiner, building inspector, yada, 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 all the way down to fire inspector. So getting, right now, currently, I'm doing a lot of different things. One primary right now is to backfill the construction management position at Cal Maritime. So I'm working with Tom Van Pelt, and he and I are basically tag teaming the construction projects and the ones that are in design right now. We got one collaborative design build. With that being said, I am supporting and helping through our fire safety division, getting the program up and running and writing all these things that Tim is talking about. And trying to get our system going so that way we can plan review for that large cap projects, and basically I'm transitioning into the campus fire marshal position by getting all the OSFM required training that they want, even though I got all most of the certifications with that. So as I'm training, we're trying to sign the MOU with the state fire marshal and get that all behind us. You'll start seeing me more and more, or have comments from our department, let's call it, on the future projects, on the major cap projects. So again, I'm glad to be here, just like what Mike and Greg has been saying, to finally help and support Ron, not being the one-man band. So we're bringing in a lot of different expertise into this, and we're here, phone call away. Please call us if there's any quirkiness going on, and we're here to support you guys out there.
I'm going to speak on behalf of Morgana. Morgana is a senior fire protection person with a lot of experience working for multiple agencies. She'll tell you that she actually began as a dispatcher, but very quickly got into the whole fire protection side of it, both for permitting and enforcement. Among other things, she was the campus fire marshal for the University of California at Davis for many years, and then moved to a large community on the south side of Sacramento, where she ran their whole fire safety division on there. We're very lucky to have her in here. She's taken as a senior manager within the fire protection field and is well respected by state fire marshal, and has been already making a substantial difference in providing the leadership we needed in here and giving us credibility in with the state fire marshal. And I guess that's the point I really want to stress. We've hit the critical mass, both in credibility and in resources. In a very short order, you're going to see this group making an even more significant difference out in the field. But we encourage you to talk to us, especially early in the stages on the project. When you're first conceptualizing, dealing with the conceptual design, that's the time for your design teams to be reaching in and getting advice and collaboration. And we can help you out. We can keep you out of trouble. We can keep you moving faster. So Kevin, back to you.
All right. Well, with that, just to do a final thank you for anybody that's got to jump out right at noon. I appreciate everybody taking the time. I know with everybody sitting on Zoom sessions all day, every day, I'm sure Noe was super stoked to sit through a 2-hour presentation. But hopefully it was really valuable. And even if there are only a few takeaways, that it was worth it. I always like to do a plus delta at the end. So if there was something that you liked, please throw it in the chat box. And if there's anything that you think could be improved or that we excluded, throw that in the chat box as well, and we'll make note of that. Again, we're going to try to follow up with the survey as well to give you guys that opportunity. I'll leave the chat box open for a few minutes while I'm doing some exports on the chat and some other items. So that if you guys want to throw any kind of longer or open-ended questions in there, we can try to follow up afterwards. But now that you know who we are and how to find our contact information, feel free to call us, shoot us an email, or however else you want to get a hold of us. So appreciate everybody taking the time to join us today. And with that, if there's any pressing questions, go ahead and throw it out there. But we're going to go and try to wrap it up. So thank you, everybody.